So now the extension only displays an alert once you click on it. But we wanted to change the background color of Google once you click on it. So we wanted to change this white background to another color. So let's accomplish this. In our project, once the user clicks on Click Me button, it's going to execute this alert function. And we don't want this anymore. I'm going to delete it. Instead, we want to execute another function. And that function that I'm going to execute here inside the callback function here is going to change the background color of Google. So let's create another function here. So this function is going to be named change color equals to function, and it's gonna take a parameter of color, which is the color that we are gonna pass in order to be added, to be displayed in the background color. And now inside the event listener, inside this event listener, we can call this function change color, and we pass whatever color we want, say blue for example. And now that blue color is this color. But now, how are we going to interact with the browser and tell Google or tell the browser that we want this color that we passed to the change color to be added instead of the current color? In order to accomplish that, we need to interact with Google Chrome APIs. Let's go to Google Chrome APIs and get some functions. If you go to chrome.tabs, there are many types and methods that you can use in order to interact with the browser and change the color. And the function or the method that I'm going to use is called query. And the query function is basically going to get all tabs that have the specified properties, which means that we are going to give it some conditions, and if these conditions are met, it's going to get that tab to us so that we can interact with it. And here it takes, the query function takes two parameters. The first one is the query info, the information that we, or the conditions that we want to give to this function in order to return a tab or group of tabs to us. And the callback function, the second parameter. The first parameter is an object called query info, and inside it there are many keys. The one that we are interested in are the active, which will check whether the tabs are active in their windows. The second one that we are interested in is the current window, which will check whether the tabs are in the current window. The second parameter is the callback function, which is a function that will be executed if the conditions are met, and it has a parameter of tabs. And this tab is an array, which is an array of all the tabs that meet our conditions so that we can interact with it. Let's now get this code and add it to our code. Now inside the change color function, I'm going to paste this code. I'm going to use this query function, and it has two parameters. The first one is an object, and the two parameters, the two keys that we want to use are the active, and we are going to give it the value of true, current window, and this is going to be true. So we are basically telling Chrome that the conditions are 1, the tab is active, and the tab is in our current window. And the callback function is a function that will be executed if these conditions are met, and it has a parameter of tabs. And this tabs is an array with all tabs that meet our conditions. Let's check what this tabs is. So again, if you go to Chrome.tabs and click on tab. So this is the tab that will be returned to us, and it has also many values, many properties. The one that we are interested in is the ID. We want to get the ID of that tab. So if the user uses our extension while Google is active in the current tab, it's going to interact with Google and change the background color. So from that tabs, which is an array, remember this is an array, we want the first, and we want the ID of it. But I'm going to comment this out because this will be used in another function. Now we have the tab. The tab is here, the tab ID is here, but how are we going to interact with it and execute our code which will change the background color of it? In order to do so, we also need to use Chrome APIs. Let's get back to Chrome APIs and use the appropriate function. The appropriate function to execute a JavaScript code to change the background color or do anything with the current tab and execute some JavaScript code is called execute script, this function. And if you read what this function does, it just injects JavaScript code into a page. And this is exactly what we are interested in. We want to inject some JavaScript code that will change the background color of Google. So this function has three parameters: the tab ID, the details, and the callback function. The tab ID, we already got this, remember, from the query. So we are going to pass the tab ID that we got here in the first parameter. The second parameter is just an object, and it has many properties. The one that we are interested in is the code. So the code is a string of code that is a JavaScript code that will be injected in the tab that we are interested in. The third parameter is a callback function, and it's an optional function. It's not necessary, and we aren't going to use it because it's redundant. Let's copy this code. And inside the callback function of the query, I'm gonna use the execute script function. The tab ID is just this one. Let's pass the tab ID. The second parameter is the details of what we want to execute. It's an object, and the key that we are interested in is the code key, which is a string of JavaScript code that we want to inject. So let's give ourselves some space here. So the code that we want to inject is a JavaScript code that will get the document, the style, the background, and change it. So here I'm gonna use a JavaScript code. I'm gonna access the document, and then body, we want the body of that document, and then we want the style, and finally we want the background color. We want the background color.